Palermo, Sicily, November 2007. Police mount an airborne assault on a villa high in the mountains. Their target, Salvatore Lo Piccolo, chief of Sicily's Mafia clans. Nicknamed the Baron, Lo Piccolo has evaded capture for over 20 years. With guns drawn, police drag out the occupants. Within seconds, the cops have Lo Piccolo locked down. The police get a first glimpse of the Mafia boss's hideout. Later, specialist search teams move in. Such is the Mafia's fearsome reputation, cops wear ski masks to hide their identity. Strewn among coffee cups and cigars are piles of cryptic texts. Some contain coded references to business transactions. But one text stands out. It's a list typed in plain Italian. The heading reads, "I swear to be faithful to La Cosa Nostra. Should I betray, my flesh will burn." Police realize they have stumbled upon the Mafia's rules of membership. The press will dub them the 10 Commandments of the Mafia.
Chi deve portare rispetto non ci si può presentare da soli ad un altro amico nostro.
No one can present himself to another of our friends. There must be a third party to do it.
The commandments hark back to the Mafia's fledgling years in the lemon groves of rural Sicily. Legend has it the Mafia was born of revolution. In the 1800s, a tight-knit band of landowners offered protection to local people from oppressive Spanish rule. But the Mafia soon discovered that protection is an easy way to make money. When the Spanish king left, the Mafia turned to crime. In the early 1900s, America opens its shores to the poor, the weak, and the hungry. Hidden among millions who seek a better life in the New World, the Mafia arrives too. By now, it's an underground tribe with its own codes and rituals. Members are clannish and secretive. They talk in hushed tones of Cosa Nostra, this thing of ours. That's why commandment number 1 sets out who can and can't belong.
Chi non può entrare a far parte di Cosa Nostra.
People who can't be part of Cosa Nostra are anyone with a close relative in the police. Anyone who behaves badly and doesn't hold to moral values.
You have to be invited to join the Mafia. Outsiders need not apply.
You know, it's always best to be proposed to the life by somebody who was already in the life. And that normally would be a blood relative, or preferably would be a blood relative, because then, you know, you come from good stock and they know your background, they can trace you all the way back.
The commitment demanded is total.
Once you come into that life, you're allegedly a new creation in the life, and everything starts from that point on. So, you know, when you take that oath, you're in it forever.
Throughout the Mafia's history, the main rule of admission is a simple one. You have to be Sicilian. Even Al Capone, arguably the world's most notorious mobster, was barred from full Mafia membership because he had no ties with Sicily. Michael Franzese was born to the mob. His family is Sicilian. His father, Sonny, is a high-ranking member of the New York Colombo crime family. Sonny wants a different life for his son.
My dad didn't want me to enter the life. He wanted me to go to school, be a professional, and I was on the road to becoming a doctor. I was a pre-med student at Hofstra University in New York.
But when Dad is jailed on racketeering charges, Michael finds himself irresistibly sucked back into the family business.
My second or third year in college, I kind of got close to the boss at that time, Joe Colombo, and his sons, and they were kind of telling me, you know, what are you doing going to school? If you don't get on the street and make some money, your dad's going to die in prison. And
Francis spends the next 2 years learning how to be a mobster. It's a tough initiation.
It's a very violent life, and you see things and you hear things, and if you're on call to do something, you got to be on call to do it. And it's all part of that kind of pledge period that you're in.
Despite his impeccable mob ties, Francis faces the test posed by Commandment Number 1. His name comes before a meeting of the Crime Commission, the mob's ruling council in New York. The commission is made up of the bosses of the 5 most powerful mafia clans in America. Linked by powerful ties of kinship and brotherhood, the mafia call their clans families. Each of New York's 5 families is named after its original leader: Bonanno, Colombo, Gambino, Genovese, Lucchese. Now, their successors consider the fate of aspiring members.
Do you have any objections? Maybe a guy's not worthy, maybe he has something in his past, maybe he was a snitch at one time. And so that goes around and circulates throughout all the families, and hopefully you pass inspection, so to speak. But that's kind of the security that they use.
With the 5 families' approval, Francis is finally about to be inducted, or made.
I got a call from my captain, and he said, I need you here at 9 o'clock that evening. It happened to be Halloween night, 1975. And he said, be on time and wear a suit.
Becoming a made man means taking part in a ritual over 100 years old.
Boss was seated at the head of like a horseshoe configuration. The underboss and the consigliere were to his left and right, and all the captains in our family were alongside them. I held out my hand. He took a knife, cut my finger, some blood dropped on the floor. When I cupped my hands, he took a picture of a saint and lit it aflame. It didn't hurt, it burned quick, it was just symbolic. And he said, tonight, Michael Francis, you are being born again into a new life, into La Cosa Nostra. And if you violate what you know about this life or betray your brothers at any time, then you're gonna die and burn in hell like the saint is burning in your hands. Do you accept? Yes, I do.
Francis is now a mafia soldier. He's on the lowest rung of the ladder. Above him stand capos, or captains, an underboss, and the boss himself. Made men call themselves men of honor. It's a title designed to command respect.
Within your community, within your neighborhood, among your peers, if you were a made guy, that really meant something.
Philadelphia crime reporter George Anastasia is from a Sicilian family and grew up in a traditional mafia neighborhood. Steeped in the culture of Cosa Nostra, he rubbed shoulders with the mob on a daily basis.
At least within a certain community, it meant something to be a man of honor. Especially if you're an immigrant and you don't have a lot of opportunities and you reach the top of your field. Look at me, I'm a man of honor.
Mobsters lived up to the man of honor title.
As a kid growing up, you see the guy with nice clothes or driving a nice car, and he takes bets and he's friendly and he'll give you $1 when you walk by, that kind of stuff. You didn't think about the treachery and the violence and the thuggery that I realize now is a major part of what all this is about.
During the 1980s, Michael Francis rises through the ranks of the Colombo family. According to one magazine, he's among the top 20 most powerful mobsters in the U.S. But during his rise, the mafia undergoes a change. The mafia's business is expanding, and that means involving outsiders. The rules of membership begin to relax. The mafia begins to induct associates, men who do business with the organization, but who do not qualify for membership.
Guys, made guys or proposed guys because they were making money with them and didn't really know their background too well, didn't delve into it too well.
The ticket into the mob is no longer family origin. It's money. In Philadelphia, Ron Previte is a good earner and of Sicilian origin.
I always called myself a general practitioner of crime. I did everything there is. I didn't specialize in anything. I once told somebody I tried to commit a felony every day. That was what I did. I was a moneymaker.
In 1993, the burly Previte catches the eye of Philadelphia mob boss John Stanfa. Without ceremony, Big Ron is drafted into the mob.
We didn't have an induction ceremony. You know, Stanford told me a bunch of rules. You know, treat the other members with respect. You know, we won't fool around with somebody else's wife. Things of that nature. Things like I can now form a crew, and, you know, nobody was supposed to go up against me. I'm a made guy. Nobody can hit me.
Previte is now part of Stanfa's inner circle, but there's a problem. Although his Sicilian heritage qualifies him for membership, Previte is an ex-cop, a fact that Stanfa decides to ignore.
That was his mistake.
John Stanfa is breaking one of the key commandments of the Mafia. Anyone connected to the police cannot be a part of Cosa Nostra.
He's someone that was a policeman, whether a good policeman or a bad policeman. It's not supposed to be a member of the mob. It's against their rules.
Crooked or not, Previte is still a cop at heart. He feels no allegiance to the Mafia. Within 2 years, he's wearing a wire for the FBI.
And yes, I did that. I wore the wire. I gathered information, and I testified in court. I had no compunctions about being a rat. The word don't bother me.
The mob's need to involve outsiders in its business leaves it vulnerable to the law. But the Mafia has another commandment that aims to build the ultimate firewall for a secret society.
I never use the word mob, mafia, I know, just friends.
The Mafia's 10 commandments aim to protect the clan from outsiders, especially cops and informers.
Non ci si può presentare da soli.
No one can present himself directly to another of our friends.
Un terzo a farlo.
There must be a third person to do it.
There's always a middleman. But if you are just an associate off the street, you're not talking to the captain, never. And if you walked up to him to talk to him, he'd walk away.
The second commandment contains an implicit threat. Your life is on the line for every introduction you make.
The person who makes the introduction is ultimately responsible for the person they introduce. So if that person goes bad, it goes dirty on them, the person who made the introduction pays the price for that.
Personal introduction is the lifeblood of Mafia business. At its height in the 1970s, the FBI estimates a Mafia membership of over 3,000 made men nationally, with up to 25,000 associates. To guard against eavesdropping cops, most Mafia business is done face-to-face.
The safest method of communication was a personal meet in a park, quite empty, or walking around the block. Usually no more than 2, maybe 3, but never in large groups. And conversations sometimes were in a foreign language, usually Italian, depending on who it was and their respective backgrounds.
Despite meetings being held on the move, mobsters call them sit-downs, a throwback to the days before police wiretaps forced them outside. There's usually a lot to discuss. Different families do business side by side in the same neighborhoods.